purpose of this section is to practice the behaviors and skills needed to keep a group focused and on track. We're getting into the nuts and bolts now of this content. On page 2, I want to talk about preventions and interventions. Facilitative behaviors are actions anyone can take to keep the meeting running smoothly. Preventions and interventions. Preventions are facilitative behaviors used before or during the meeting to prevent the meeting from getting off track. Interventions are facilitative behaviors used during the meeting to help people get back on track. Preventions keeps the train from wrecking. Interventions is what you do after you have a train wreck and you've got to go in and clean up the mess and get the train back up, the tracks back down, and get things going again. All right, if you look at this scale, the scale here, on the left-hand side, those are preventions. On the right-hand side, the scale shows interventions. What does this scale tell you when you just look at this? Intuitively, what is this telling you? Left is preventions, right is interventions.
So, less to do than prevention.
It's less expensive. And when I say expensive, I'm talking about emotion, energy, angst. It's so much easier to keep the train from wrecking than to clean up the train wreck. All right, in this statement here, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of intervention. I like the way they did this. The scale on the left has a smart light bulb, one of the energy efficient. And on the right, those are the old light bulbs. So we want to prevent instead of intervene. All right, let's go to the next page. And actually, the next couple of pages talk about preventions, but I'm just going to work from this page 3. Here are some preventions you have seen. The first one, desired outcomes, starting with the end in mind. And we had some good discussion about this morning. I'm not coming in and imposing these on the group, but I am proposing. Based on the information that you've given me, it would appear that these outcomes are what we need to focus on and stay focused on throughout the meeting. If somebody has something that you missed, we need to put it up there. But chances are that's not going to be the case. And if somebody in the meeting, and I'm thinking primarily of parents, they start saying, well, we want this, we want this, and we want this, I bet maybe 99 times out of 100, you're going to be able to relate it to one of the outcomes you already have up there. So it's not probably going to be too far afield. When I get agreement on the outcomes, I try to put parameters around the meeting right then, right now. With your agreement, these are the only things we're going to talk about in this meeting. These outcomes. If it's not related to these 2 or 3 outcomes, we're going to put it on a parking lot and we'll talk about it later. That will stop your bird walks. I mean, I bet if you think about IEP meetings you've been in that have gone into extra innings, there have been a lot of bird walks along the way. I want to stop that, and I can stop that immediately, the first 3 minutes of the meeting as we go through outcomes. Agenda. I want that agenda up there. I want it very clear. Again, I don't care how you put it up, but it has to be visual. I'm an Episcopalian. We haven't changed our order of worship since Henry VIII. But I get that order of worship every time I walk into the nave every Sunday morning. It's just nice to have. I look at it very rarely because I know what's coming up. But it's just, I need it. It's ritualistic. And I need that agenda. And I'm proposing that we do the same in IEP meeting. It's a good business model, guys. And in our group down the hall a while ago, everybody talked about having that up here. And this was their cheat sheet. That agenda kept everybody on track. So let's make it visual and let's get it up there. If you have to hand it out, I don't care how you art form. I don't care how you use it, but we need to make sure everybody has an agenda. Roles. Let's define why we're here, not who we are in the meeting. Let's don't go around and give all of our erudite titles. Let's talk about what you're going to do in this meeting today. The decision-making method is given to us. I mean, it's consensus. And we've defined that several times today. The ground rules. I have met with literally thousands of parents in different groups. I have yet to find a parent that would say, no, I don't want people to communicate clearly with me and listen to me. No, these are rules of civility. And I think everybody wants to be respected. Joyce and I were asked to facilitate staff development in a state for the superintendents of that state. And we're talking many days every month with the superintendents all over the state. And the first time we went to provide, we did day-long meetings with groups of 25. And the first meeting we went to, this was a few years ago, I remember driving on that fall morning to the location. I turned to Joyce and said, I don't think we need ground rules for superintendents. They're erudite, bright, smart, focused people. God forgive me. We started the meeting with 25 people in there, and from the get-go, we had 12 and a half sidebar conversations almost constantly. Now, I know they were talking business stuff. It wasn't a social conversation. They didn't have the opportunity to sit down like that next to a fellow superintendent and share. But we took a break an hour after we started, and I put up ground rules, and we had to use ground rules every meeting for the rest of the year. And you know what? It stopped all of that stuff. They were happy to sign on. We were doing, we had a client in the Washington, D.C. area that had, I think it was like a 2-star general, I don't think it was over 2 stars. It was a parent, and she called us and said, I'm not sure what to do with this guy. He comes in and he takes over our IEP meetings and he runs it like a staff meeting. And so we talked, and she agreed, all right, I'm going to try the ground rules. So she did, and he came in the next meeting, and she said, General, we've had a training, and we'd like to propose. And she went down through the ground rules, and she said he sat up straight, if a general can sit up any straighter. And she said, how do you feel about this? And he said, they seem very reasonable. I like them. She said the meeting went like silk. So she called me immediately after the meeting was over, and I said, all right, why do you think it went like that? And she said, you know, in hindsight, it is so clear. Here's a man who's lived with rules and regulations all of his life, and in the absence of any, he imposed his. But when we offered some, he was quite willing to say, sure, I can get on board with that. I find that parents and staff, I'll tell you what, I have more pushback from general ed staff than anybody else. And the reason they say, I think that you're talking down to parents. But again, it's how you present it. You go in, I'd like to make a proposal instead of imposing these. And ask, do you have anything you would like to add? Is there anything that we should take off of here? This is boilerplate. Make it your own and make it work. But I promise you, ground rules will really change life for you. Because what it does, it creates a whole different philosophy in the class, or in the IEP meeting, in the room. For example, if we're in an IEP meeting, you know, and Nancy's cutting people off, she won't let them finish a sentence. She's just not being very respectful. If I'm the facilitator, I've got to intervene. And that's probably saying, you know, Nancy, please, you're going to have to quit, you know. And it can become personal. You know, Nancy may look at me and roll up her sleeves and say, honey, you ain't seen nothing yet. You know, you threw the gauntlet down and I'm picking it up. With ground rules, here's what I do. I will stop the meeting And I typically will find something to sort of say, I'm the cause of this. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but I have a hearing loss, and there's a lot of noise in the room right now. And I need for us to go back up here. Can we listen, communicate clearly and listen carefully to each other? I just want to review. I know you agreed to these only 3 minutes ago, but I'd like to see if you're still in agreement with these. All right, good. Now, everybody in the meeting knows it's Nancy. She's the problem. But I haven't had to make it personal. And I have saved myself from this confrontation. I permitted her to kind of save face and me to not become the police officer in the room. I love ground rules. I don't do meetings anymore, any kind, even our staff meetings. I'm going to have ground rules. So I throw that out. Again, guys, this is art. You have to decide what you want to do. During the meeting, you can make process agreements on suggestions on how the group can go forward, organizing information, and so on. Get the process agreements. Now, you've got to get an agreement or you can't enforce it. If Nancy hasn't agreed to these ground rules, I cannot ask her to live up to them. That's why you've got to get that A up there. And silence is not agreement. I need a thumbs up, a nodding of the head, or something so that I know everybody has agreed to this, or you can't, you just absolutely cannot get people to adhere to them if they haven't agreed. There are times you're going to have to educate the group. You're the experts. There are times you're going to have to say, no, federal law or state law or whatever requires us to do thus and such. Open-ended questions. If you have people in your meeting who are not participating, ask an open-ended question. Don't ask a yes or no question. Mike, what do you think about these present levels of performance? What are your thoughts on these? Instead of, how do you like them, Mike? Yes, they're all right. No, I want to pull him into the conversation. Now, if you ask an open-ended question, be prepared for an open-ended answer. If I ask Mike that and he starts and, 35 or 40 seconds later I say, yeah, that's good, Mike, what do you think about it? And then, no, Melanie, no, I can't do that. I've got to give him an opportunity to feel validated. Okay, this is a tough one. Sometimes we have to request people to reserve judgment. Have you been in an IEP meeting and somebody makes a proposal and somebody else in the room goes, oh no, that'll never work. We haven't even talked about it yet. And you've already discarded it or dismissed it. So, there are times you have to say, hold your judgment until we work through the information and organize our thoughts. Any questions on prevention? All right. Again, the next 2 pages are kind of a summary of what I've just gone over. There are times you can have every prevention that you know of in place, but there's still going to be a train wreck. Now what do I do?